welcome to another booktube video from me, Lauren, from Lauren of the Books. I'm on a chair and I'm up tall because this is my favourite shelf, and when I mentioned it recently, quite a few people were like, Lauren, we'd love to see your favourite shelf. Please, can you show it? I'm moving you around like that. Hopefully no one falls as a result of this video. These are the books that when I give them 5 stars or more, or they end up in my best books of video, they get put upon the beautiful shelf of books that I loved. Now, I don't keep all of my books. I keep books if I love them and I gave them 5 stars, or if I know someone that I think I can lend that to, or if I know a number of people that I can lend that to and I'm like, oh, borrow this, but I will have it back because I know somebody else that will lend it to. And all of these books here are mainly, all of these books here, they are mainly unread books, but yeah, these are my bestest books, and they go up here. So I thought I would just use this as an opportunity to show you some of the books that I have on my bestest books shelves. So, do I zoom in? Do I keep you there, or do I zoom in? I think I'm just gonna leave it. Do I zoom in? Come on, let's do this professionally. I'm gonna zoom in. So they're sort of semi-organised in like hardback type of books so that they stack nicely. And these are all books that I've read, so I will show you the front covers. This is the Essex, God, this is like a proper bookshelf tour, isn't it? This is the Essex Serpent by Sarah Perry. I read this many years ago, really enjoyed it. It's got lovely end papers, I believe. I remember the book underneath being beautiful. I remembered wrong. This is a book where you follow Cora, who has moved to Essex, and she is in correspondence with a friend of hers about an Essex Serpent. There's a lot of talk between, it's a historical fiction book, and there's a relationship between her and a priest, and you hear a lot to do with, that's not central, is it? There we go. You hear a lot, shall I move it like that? Yeah. And you hear a lot to do with sort of like, religion versus science and things like that. Really enjoyed it. Don't remember much about it, but I do remember enjoying it at the time. Maybe this is one that I need to revisit. The front cover is just absolutely gorgeous, isn't it though? Isn't it? So that's the first one. The next one is Winter by Ali Smith. This is part of her seasonal quartet. The spring is due out, I think it might be out now. No, it's out on Friday. And these are books that are written in the season that they are done. Then like these naked hardbacks with this like tiny little dust jacket that goes around it. Very cute. I really like this one. So this is set just over Christmas, and I read it over Christmas, which I really enjoyed. And it is a house of 4 people. Art is going home for Christmas, and he's recently broken up with his girlfriend, so he pays somebody to come home and be introduced to his wife, introduced to his mother as his wife. And his mother's got a lot going on at the moment. She keeps seeing this disembodied head that's floating around. It was funny. It was impressive. I really liked it. I haven't read much Ali Smith. And I have read Autumn and Winter, and both of them I really enjoyed. I don't own Winter though, so that I don't own Autumn, which is why it isn't on the shelves. The next one is a non-fiction book, and this is The Gender Gaze by Juno Dawson. This is a non-fiction book about Juno Dawson's experiences with gender. Juno was born in a male body. She has now transitioned and is a female. And I really loved it. I feel like it's written for everybody, and we read this for my book club. I've actually read it twice. I read it the book form, and I've listened to the audiobook, which is narrated by Juno herself. She just does an amazing job of making everything so accessible, and I read it and just felt like I learned loads, and when I listened back to it again, I felt like I learned loads as well. Really enjoyed it and would recommend it to anybody indeed. The next one is my lovely friend Jane Campbell. This is The Beginning of the World in the Middle of the Night. This is a collection of short stories. Magical realism features heavily. They are all beautiful short stories. I was lucky enough to go to the Lush Book Club, and actually being a friend of Jen, I'd heard her read a few of these stories out a few times, and I just loved them. They were just so wonderful. My favourite in this collection is a story called Jacob, and it's about a young boy who's writing to a weather woman because he's having problems at home with his sister's relationship with his mum, etc. And he feels like the weather woman knows everything, so why wouldn't she be able to help him? And it's just done so innocently and beautifully. But yeah, the whole selection is just wonderful, and another good front cover. A lot of good front covers. The next one that features is Wundersmith, The Calling of Morrigan Crow, signed by the author, it says. I bought this in Waterstones. This is the second in the Nevermore series. The first book, which should be on this shelf, is actually on David's bedside table because I'm very much urging him to read it. The first book I gave 5 stars. This I gave 4 stars, and if I'm being honest, does this deserve a space on the shelf? Potentially it doesn't, because I didn't love it as much as I loved Nevermore. So in the Nevermore series, I can't really tell you much about this one because it is the second in a series, but in the Nevermore series you follow Morrigan Crow, who is a cursed child and is destined to die on her 13th birthday. On the eve of her 13th birthday, a chap called Jupiter North turns up at her home and whisks her away to a place called Nevermore, where she has to take part in a series of challenges to become part of the Wondrous Society. That happens in Nevermore. This is Wundersmith, where she has got into the Wondrous Society, yeah, I can't really tell you much more than that. What I will say, I love this series, and I love Morrigan. I love Jupiter. I love how much of Christmas is involved. Not so much Christmas in this one. I love the coziness and the excitement it made me feel. But for me, this one had a little bit too many sort of Harry Potter-esque things happening on. I also understand that, like, when you've got a second book in a series, you need to do a lot of setting up, and I feel like that's what this book was for. Look at my little hand just referencing. So yeah, I'm expecting good things, but this one I didn't enjoy it as much as Nevermore. So does it deserve to belong up there? So it's one of my favourite in the series. What to do? I'll leave it for the time being. The next one is All Among the Barley by Melissa Harrison. This is a book set in 1933, and you follow a character, Edie, who lives in a rural life with her family on a farm, and a woman called Constance has turned up from London who wants to write about the goings-on in the rural place that she lives. Alongside that, there's some sort of witchiness going on. I really loved it. It was my first Melissa Harrison. I also went to a talk with Melissa Harrison at Cambridge Literary Festival, and Melissa did a reading from this book, but she didn't read like this. She just did it out of her brain. I mean, I guess if you've written a book, you probably could just get it out of your brain, but it's the first time I'd ever seen it. I was very impressed with it. So that's that. So let me put these back and then I'll get the last one. And the last one is English Animals, which was my favourite book of 2017, I think. I love this book so much. I need to do a reread of it, really. You follow Mirka, who moves in, she's Slovakian, and she moves in with a couple, Sophie and Richard. And when she moves in, she's expecting to be taken on as a sort of home help. She's asked if she doesn't mind working with dead animals, and she thinks that means does she mind cooking with meat. And when she gets there, she finds out that she has become she's to assist Richard in taxidermy. It starts at the beginning of the novel where her English is not great, and that is reflected in the way that the book's written. It's very disjointed, but by the end it's flowing beautifully, and she develops quite a deep friendship and romantic relationship with both Richard and Sophie. I loved this, and every time I talk about it, it gives me such a big smile on my face. Mirka is one of the most real characters I think I've ever read, and I love this, and I really need to revisit it. Maybe I will reread it soon because I loved it. That was that little pile there, so that's just some hardbacks. We've also got a little pile of Daphne du Maurier's, which I'm just going to take here and show you. All Daphne du Maurier books I've read so far, no, that's not true. All the ones that I've given 5-star have ended up here, but I haven't got rid of the other ones just because I love having the ones with the stripy spine, so some of them will be residing in those. The first one is The Birds by Daphne du Maurier. It's a short story collection with the title story The Birds. Can't really talk about all the other stories in there, but The Birds itself is such a good short story. It's about birds turning on humans and just killing everyone. It's really atmospheric for a 40-page short story. It really sets a sort of monotonous tone of like the birds attacking during the day and then at night resting, and then everyone trying to get everything ready in time for the next attack. And even though it's only written in 40 pages, it really sets up this sort of monotony and like routine that you really get used to. As I said that, a blackbird has tried getting into my window. Do you want me to read you this? He's gone. Frightened. The next one is Jamaica Inn. This is the first Daphne du Maurier. This is the first Daphne du Maurier book that I read, and I loved it so much. When I read it, I was like, I bet this is going to be my favourite. I purposely didn't read Rebecca because everyone was like, oh, Rebecca will be your favourite. It's amazing. It's amazing. I was like, Jamaica Inn's gonna be my favourite. So I read it first. Really love it. You follow Mary Yellen, who's following the death of her mother, moves to Bodmin Moor, I think it is. Cornish Moors, Bodmin Moor, don't know where I got Bodmin from. Moves to the Cornish Moors into a pub called Jamaica Inn with her auntie and her auntie's husband, who is transpires to be involved in the smuggling ring. It's a story of sort of survival from Mary's point of view, and it's got some romantic aspects. It's got sort of double-crossing a really villainous vicar, and yeah, I just loved it. I read it, it's set on the run-up to Christmas, like it's not Christmassy at all, but I read it in August. I remember picking it up and reading it. Me and David had taken a day off work and we'd gone and sat in this park, and I just remember reading it and just being like, looking up and being like, oh, it's not actually, I'm not on a Cornish moor, it's actually August in Maidstone. So that's that. The next one is my favourite, which is Rebecca. I have now read this twice. I've read it and then listened to the audiobook. Wonderful, wonderful story about the new wife of Maximilian de Winter, and her learning about his ex-wife Rebecca. It's really moody, it's really atmospheric. I feel like I use the word atmospheric so much, but you can't get more of a word to describe Daphne du Maurier than atmospheric. Mandalay, where the book's set, and Italy, it's all just really heavily just wonderful. And there's some amazing scenes in here. Really love it. If you haven't read it, you should. Another one of mine, which is, although this is my favourite, this is like very closely my second favourite, and that is My Cousin Rachel. I've heard Simon describe this as the original Gone Girl, which I really like. You are hearing about, this story is told from the perspective of Philip, who has been raised by his cousin Ambrose. Ambrose has quite poor health and goes to Italy during the winter months, I think, and one time when he's there in Italy, he writes to Philip and says, oh, I've met a woman and I'm going to marry her, and that happens very quickly, and then Ambrose dies, and you don't really know much else what happened apart from the fact that Ambrose dies. Then Ambrose's new wife, Rachel, moves back into the place where Philip is living, and she is now his cousin Rachel, and yeah, you find there's a lot of like hidden letters left in pockets, and well, what happened with Ambrose, and always Philip falling for Rachel, and yeah, really good. Bloody good ending as well. And then the last one I've got is Frenchman's Creek, which I read. I even read this before. Did I read it before Rebecca, or just slightly after this? So this is like more of a light-hearted sort of jaunt. You follow Donna St. Column, who has moved down to her husband. She's retreated to her husband's Cornish estate because there's a bit of dramas going on in England, where she falls in love with a pirate, basically. Yeah, it's just quite jovial and fun, and I gave it 5 stars at the time. I really loved it. I wonder how I would feel about it on reading. I think it was the second one I read, so I wonder how I would feel about it on the reread. I need to get rereading some Daphne du Maurier, don't I? So yes, those are the Daphne du Mauriers that I have given 5 stars. I feel like I've also given Rendezvous 5 stars, but I don't know where that is. Don't know where that is. But yes, plenty more Daphne du Mauriers to be reading. The Scapegoat I'll be reading this month as well. So then we got this selection of paperbacks. The first one being The Paying Guest by Sarah Waters. This is a book that I read last year. Absolutely loved it. Sarah Waters has written some of my favourite books ever. Actually, I've just realised I don't think Tipping the Velvet's up here, and it should be. I need to have a bit of a jig around. In The Paying Guest, you follow Frances and her mother, who have recently rented out rooms. Look at me in the corner of this video. Hi! Who have recently rented out rooms following a sort of financial situation where they're having to do that in their own house, and they've rented it to a young professional couple, the Barbers, and Lillian Barber and Frances Barber get together quite a friendship quite quickly on, and which develops into a romance. Or I'd say a sexual relationship, like first off, a sexual relationship. Then this is all building up. So the first half of the book is this sort of like urgent, romantic, sexual book. And then something happens midway through. And then the fallout is the second half, and a crime happens exactly midway through. And then the last half of the book is this sort of urgent covering up of this crime. Really loved it. Thought it was amazing. It's massive, but absolutely worth every single page. Loved it. The next 3 I've got here, and I won't go into these too much detail because they are my oh god, I can't. These are my his Dark Materials. I've got the original. I think these were the first ones that they were publishing. My friend Laura's bought me this one in my first year of university. I'd never read it, and then I picked up these 2 in charity shops. I love these front covers. They make me feel very nostalgic. The Dark Materials series are just a wonderful series of books following Lyra. There's, oh god, Philip Paul. I'm not even going to say anything. Just bloody go and read them because they're absolutely fantastic. The next one I've got here is One by Sarah Crossan. This is a book written in poetry form like this, and it follows the journey of a set of conjoined twins, where they're not going to be homeschooled anymore. They're going to go to a ordinary state school, and the changes they're having to make in order to attend that state school, and also just them being teenagers and what it's like being teenagers, alongside what it's like to be a conjoined twin. Really, really amazing. I mean, I absolutely flew through this. Like you can see, there's pages of like not much going on, like in terms of font and stuff, text, but my god, it packs a punch. It really does pack a punch. Really emotional. If you're trying to, I often get asked, people sometimes say, oh, I've got a young person in my life, I'd like to get them into reading. Tell them to read one. Absolutely fantastic. Really, really loved it. The next one I've got is one that I read a long time ago. Actually, I've got another copy of this in there. Why is that? This is The Long Way to a Small Angry Planet by Becky Chambers. This is probably one of the only sci-fis that I've read and loved. I'm not a big sci-fi reader, but you're following Rosemary Harper after she's joined the crew of a team called the Wayfarers, and their job is to sort of punch holes. I'm getting my punching out. Punch holes like in one end of the galaxy, and that will then open up to another end of the galaxy. But the crew on this ship, there's so many different like species, and it's just really like, it feels really diverse, and I just loved it. I really liked it so much. Next is one of my favourite books of all time. It's Americanah. It's not my, oh god, look at the front covers. It's not my favourite front cover. I've seen much lovelier front covers, but this is the one that I read, and this is the one that I fell in love with. And I just, well, this is just my favourite book of all time. You follow a couple, it's set in Nigeria, and you follow a couple, Ifemelu and Abinze, and their relationship throughout school and college, and then Ifemelu goes to America to study, and the plan is for Abinze to follow her, but that doesn't happen, and he ends up going and starting work as he ends up going to a UK as an undocumented illegal immigrant, and then you follow their journey separately, and then they come back together, and oh god, there's just so much feelings in here. It's so amazing. Like the characters, she just writes the most amazing characters I've ever read, and I just love it. It's just my favourite. It's just my favourite. It's just my favourite, guys. It's my favourite. And then the next one I've got is The Tidal Zone. This is also a signed edition. Simon got me this. Thanks, Simon. There it is, signed. The Tidal Zone is a very... my first Sarah Moss book that I read. There's two Sarah Moss books on these shelves, and this follows the thread running through the story is Miriam has had an episode at school whereby she stopped breathing, so essentially she died for a while, and they managed to get her into the hospital, and they get her back stable again, but they don't know what caused this. So there's this sort of uncertainty running throughout this, that this sort of thing can happen to Miriam again. You're hearing about it from a stay-at-home dad's point of view, which is a point of view that you don't often hear about, and I really enjoyed that. And then you're also hearing about, I think it's the granddad's point of view as well. And yeah, it's just fantastic. Really loved it. Amazing. First Sarah Moss. Very pleased. The next one is Bridget Jones's my book's falling down. Bridget Jones's Diary. This is a favourite of mine. Probably my most read book. Maybe after Harry Potter. But I can come back to this book at any time in my life and just pick up something new or find something funny about it, and it's been a comfort to me throughout my life. Bridget Jones is a sort of dysfunctional 30-something trying to navigate her way through life in publishing. She's forever being asked by her parents and her parents' friends when she's going to get a boyfriend and settle down, and just the generic questions you get asked as a 30-something woman, and this follows a year in her life. I mean, you probably all know about it or have seen the film, but the book is just as funny. Her mum is hilarious in this. So funny. Then I've got two copies of Big Bones. This is the proof copy and this is the finished copy, and I love this proof copy so much that I have not wanted to get rid of it because it's just so amazing. This is all about Big Bones, who is also known as Bluebell or BB, and she is a body positive 16-year-old who I just needed when I was 16, let me tell you. She's just amazing, and she just doesn't take, like, she's just so amazing. I feel like I'm really gushing about her, but she's so amazing. She wants to leave school and start an apprenticeship, but she's told that she has to get on top of her weight. She has to lose weight, and because her asthma's a problem, and she's told to keep a food diary, which she does. But it's not the food diary that I think they were expecting. Like, oh, today I ate this. It's sort of like memories that are attributed to pieces of food that she's eaten. So like, leftover shepherd's pie or dog biscuits or an orange or a latte, and yeah, you're either listening to memories or something that's happening to her in the moment, and yeah, it's just amazing. Another YA book that I bloody loved. Pop those two in there. Then I've got The Trouble with Goats and Sheep, which I read a long time ago. I can't really remember much about it, guys. Let's have a look. Oh yes, I do. So Mrs. Creasy, this is set in the summer of 1976, that hottest summer where a lot of books are set, and Mrs. Creasy is missing, and you're looking at Mrs. Creasy's disappearance through two young girls in the neighbourhood, and you're also going back to things that have happened in the past. So very retro. I feel like I enjoyed it. It reminded me of like the social club that my nan and granddad used to drink at when I was younger. Getting to the end of the paperbacks now, gang. I've got The Vegetarian by Han Kang, which is one of those books that I never would have read if it hadn't have been, if BookTube hadn't have come along. I read this very early in my BookTube career, and very much enjoyed this. Now, would I give this 5 stars if I read it again? Who knows? But I did enjoy it very much, and that's why it has got a place on this shelf. This is the story of a Korean woman who has become vegetarian, which is almost unheard of in Korean culture, and it's told from the perspective of 3 points of view. So I think it's her husband, her sister, and her brother-in-law. And yeah, you're finding out about her sort of her journey into mental decline, basically. Not the biggest lull book I've ever read, but very enjoyable nevertheless. Next is that second Sarah Moss book that I was talking about. It's Names for the Sea, Strangers in Iceland. Love this. This is non-fiction. This is the year of which Sarah Moss and her 2 young boys and her husband moved to Iceland as she took a job at the university there. It is wonderful. The description of what is outside her window is amazing. Loved hearing about different aspects of the life, whether it's like how crap the food is in the supermarket, or the fact that a lot of people believe that trolls exist, and just amazing. Really love this. This is a book that I've read every year since I've read it, and I don't often do rereads, but I really like it. The next 2 are these sort of like bigger paperbacks. The first one is this proof copy, this very bashed about proof copy. What's that? Eyeshadow, I don't know. Of Normal People by Sally Rooney. And I should get another copy of Normal People, but this one's so beloved to me. I picked it up when David and I were on holiday in Cromer. No, I got sent it, and then I read it when David and I were on holiday in Cromer, and just absolutely loved it. One of my favourite books of last year. Probably my favourite book of the year changes every day, like depending on what mood I'm in. And at the moment it feels like that. This is my favourite book of last year. You follow the relationship and friendship of Connell and Marianne in Ireland, and they're quite different characters in school. Marianne is very reclusive, and Connell's in the sort of like sports gang and very confident, and has always relied on other people to sort of bounce off of and things like that, and they start a relationship, and then they get into university, and their roles almost switch. Really liked the way this is told. So each different chapter is told from Marianne or Connell's point of view, but it sort of skips a few weeks or months and things like that. It's very fast paced, and when I say this all the time, but when I read it, it really reminded me of watching a play, particularly of Closer. I watched a play of Closer when I was at university, and it's really stuck with me even to this day. I've seen the film since, but when I remember that storyline, I always remember the play that I saw, and this really reminded me of it. Loved it. 5 stars. Fantastic. And then the last big one I've got, and this is, I love this front cover so much. This is Elmet by Fiona Mosley, and this is the story of Daniel and his sister Kathy, and the man who's they call Daddy. That's his name. That's how he's referred to throughout. And they're living an existence off the grid, where they live in the woods, and they fend for themselves. They have a little bit of home education. They get sent to a woman's house to have a bit of education, and their dad makes money through fighting, through going to pubs and having fights and things like that. It's very it's one of these sort of like nature writing. It's really set in nature, and it's beautifully written, and yeah, it's quite tragic in places, but really loved it. Those are those guys. I think I'm gonna have to move. Those are those guys. Now I'm going to do this sort of, these are normally stood up, but they've fallen over already. So these are like different colour, different sized books plus different sized hardbacks. So if I just zoom in on those guys, I'll work backwards. Actually, I'll do these two. It's fallen over. I'll do these two together because they're little sort of they're very small. So both of them are by Chimamanda Ngozi Adichie. This is We Should All Be Feminists, and this is Dear Ejawali, or A Feminist Manifesto in 15 Suggestions. These are, this is a TED Talk that Chimamanda did on feminism, and this is a book that, a letter that she wrote her friend when her friend had a daughter and asked her to write her a letter on how to be a feminist. So really, really short but important books. Then my battery ran out, so I had to stop. Now I've got to pick that book up. I'm just going to show these to you here because there's not that many to hold. So the next two I've got, are both non-fiction about food, actually. I will start with Eat Up by Ruby Tandoh. This is a book written by Ruby Tandoh, who is a past participant on the Great British Bake Off. This is just a sort of ode and book about how much she loves food and how much she enjoys eating food. I read this at the same time that I read Big Bones, and they were just the perfect accompaniment to each other. And this is just a book about the joy of food. I really, really loved it, and it's interspersed with a few recipes, but that's not what the main idea of the book is. It's just a celebration of really like lowbrow food to really like high-end restaurant food, and I really, really loved it. The next one is one that I gave 5 stars when I read it, and it's actually not relevant to me anymore, but I really found it a very good tool at the time, and that is How to Go Vegan. This is written and published by the company that runs Veganuary, and I took part in Veganuary 2018, and I was actually a vegan for a few months after that. It didn't work out for me. That's not to say it will never work out for me again, and there are still aspects of the vegan diet that I still follow, but I am vegetarian. But yeah, I've just found this book really, really helpful and knowledgeable and not preachy, and it sort of equipped you with things that you would need to know if people sort of like are gobbing off like, oh, why are you vegan, as people normally do. It gives you it gives you like good evidence as to why a vegan diet is the great thing. It's got really good tips, and just for any, like, I was a beginner at becoming a vegan for Veganuary, and this book really, really helped me with becoming a vegan. Really, really enjoyed it. So yeah, if you're thinking about doing it, or even if you're new to veganism, bloody hell, I can't even get my words out, I would definitely recommend this. Then I've got Then I've got Almost Love by Louise O'Neill. This is Louise O'Neill's first adult novel. She's previously written YA, and I really, really love this. You follow Sarah, who has started an affair with, she's a teacher, and she started an affair with one of the parents of one of her students, and he does not treat her nicely. And yeah, I think my enjoyment behind this, enjoyment is an odd word, but the reason I like this book so much is that I saw so much of myself in Sarah from like past relationships, and how much I would put myself out there, and how much I would just sort of like be clinging to little bits of like what I thought were love but were not. They were just complete indifference from men, and Sarah really really gets that. And this is the first time I've read it where it felt so truthful and so real, and yeah, I just thought it was amazing. It read really, really quickly. There's quite a lot of like text messages and things throughout, and yeah, I thought it was a real good representation of what it is like in relationships for women. Sometimes, not all the time, sometimes. And then I've got another one here. I'm surprised to see this on my shelf, but I did enjoy it. Maybe it doesn't belong here anymore, but I did enjoy it at the time. Falling over. And that is Let Me Lie by Claire Mackintosh. Claire Mackintosh is a great thriller and crime writer. She's an ex-policeman. I actually went to watch a talk with her at Lush Book Club, where I go to see most of my author talks. And this was, yeah, I really enjoyed it at the time. I feel like it's got added, oh, I found a bookmark in there. I love that. Oh no, because it goes with the book. It goes with the book. I'll keep it in there. It's signed by Claire. I feel like I loved this so much because I'd actually seen Claire talk about it. But you follow woman Anna, and the fact that her mother and father committed suicide within 6 months of each other, but she's not certain that they were suicides, and she looks into that, and that's really all I can tell you. But I do really like Claire Mackintosh's writing, and I Let You Go is probably one of the best crime thrillers I think I've ever read. I really, really, really loved it, so I would definitely recommend that. So, oh no, there's one more. The last one I've got is a graphic novel, and it is Paper Girls Volume 1. I still got Volume 2 somewhere, which I still haven't read. Yeah, down there. I need to get round to this. I actually bought this for David. I think Minnie bought this for David after I'd watched a video where they said if you like Stranger Things then you would like this. It's very retro. It's about 4 girls who work as paper delivery girls, and there is an alien invasion. It's set, I believe it's set in 1988. It follows 4 12-year-old girls, and yeah, it was just, I really liked the colour palette. I really liked the sort of kick-assness of the girls, and I must read the second one. Do you know what? I might read that this afternoon. I'm gonna go and get something to eat for lunch now, and I might read that this afternoon. So yeah. So that was my favourite shelf. I hope you enjoyed this video and hope you enjoyed my precarious position up here. And yeah, let me know if you have read any of these books, if any of these books are your favourites, and I will see you all again soon for another booktube video. Goodbye!